I think I'm a special one.
Fabregas, lovely ball threaded through. Costa, what a start!
Brett Lampard to win it. He's got it.
He's done it! The greatest night in the history of Chelsea Football Club.
Welcome back to Son of Chelsea. I'm Daniel Childs, and welcome to the brand new Son of Chelsea studio. Haven't been doing any uploads or shows over the past week because we've been setting up here the new look. I hope you like it. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And a great time to do my first show in the new studio because, of course, Chelsea beating Newcastle yesterday. I was at the Bridge. We're going to be kind of breaking things down, mainly, of course, focusing on, once again, the genius of Cole Palmer, who's basically amazing at everything. And I'm losing ways to talk about how brilliant he is already, but that's kind of, it feels a little bit Kante-esque in the sense that you keep on saying this guy is amazing. You have to find new ways as kind of a podcaster or someone who talks about Chelsea on camera to kind of make it sound interesting. But of course, always happy to break down Cole Palmer doing what he did yesterday, which was just absolutely genius. But I thought overall it was a huge win, I think, for Chelsea. I really think yesterday, I don't know if it was just because of the reaction of the players at full time, the nature of Newcastle being quite a defensive-minded team, some dark antics within there. You've also got the fact that it was a really, really bad officiating performance by Simon Hooper that didn't help things. And it was a tense game because, Chelsea had lost against Liverpool last week, and then, of course, we hadn't beaten Nottingham Forest. So if Chelsea hadn't have won yesterday, it would have been free without a Premier League win. And, of course, within that, we've won a couple of Conference League games, but I think it was very important that Chelsea got over the line yesterday, and they did. And I think there was a lot about that game that signalled to me, again, some big steps forward that we'll get into. But looking at that starting lineup, I was very surprised. A couple of things, really. I think Reece James, again, it was not that Reece James started. It was that both Reece James and Malo Gusto started. I didn't expect that. I thought Marco Correa, although, of course, he played the game against Panathinaikos, I thought he would come back into the starting 11 like Wesley Fofana did after their suspension was over in the league. But instead, we had Reece James starting on the left side of Chelsea's defence, Malo Gusto on the right, Fofana back, Colwill, obviously Robert Sanchez, Lavia, Caicedo, a midfield pairing I was very happy to see again. I wasn't overly shocked that Pedro Neto came into the starting lineup here. I did think, I spoke about this with Louis on the Chelsea Echo podcast that we do each week. It comes out on a Friday, previewing the game. And I thought out of the players who were most vulnerable from the Premier League 11 versus the B team, I did think Jadon Sancho was most vulnerable. So I wasn't too surprised Neto came in. And of course, he had an influence in the game. Palmer, Madueke and Jackson. Obviously, let's just talk about Cole Palmer. The genius of Cole Palmer once again. Looking at the stats so far this season, for goals and assists, Cole Palmer top with 12, one more than Erling Haaland, one more than Mohamed Salah, a couple more than Bukayo Saka, and I think wonderful for Nicolas Jackson. He's just behind Saka with 9 so far this year, which for Jackson, let's give some flowers to Jackson. I thought Jackson's performance was once again brilliant. He scores the goal. It was an easy finish, but I thought his all-round play again, the way he drops deep, receives a ball either from Robert Sanchez or one of the centre-backs, and he's able to so quickly turn. I mean, he had Dan Burn figured out early on, and that race between those two was exactly the way you thought it would have gone. And I think it's just great to see Jackson developing, getting better, maturing each week, and the numbers are just justifying his continued involvement as Chelsea's main centre-forward. But Palmer, I thought one of the things there's a couple of things, right? I think the first is that Palmer is having as much, if not more freedom actually, than he had under Mauricio Pochettino, which was a narrative and a discussion we had over the summer. Because again, I've talked about this a lot so far this year, that I've been amazed and pleasantly surprised how much Maresca has leaned on what was already there and has tried to build maybe some more foundations, maybe a more of a comfort in possession compared to last year. But this team is not rigid. This team is not robotic. And I think that's one of the things that is giving me a lot of pleasure watching Chelsea currently. And it's especially when you see Cole Palmer taking up so many positions. Almost the a preview to the pass of the season so far, and it probably will be the pass of the season, came quite early in the game where Palmer was dropping so deep, even deeper than Caicedo and Lavia as a midfield two to receive the ball. And it almost felt at times like Newcastle would try and press our midfield two, they would get sucked into that, and then either Caicedo or Lavia would then turn, or maybe one of the centre-backs would then find Palmer in space, who dropped back, and he found this gap between Newcastle's midfield and defence time and again. And of course, that was always going to contribute to Chelsea looking good in attack, because you just can't allow Cole Palmer that space. And I did always feel that one of the things that Chelsea had at their disposal, and one of the things that gave me hope for this game, was that Newcastle do not have the fastest defence. They do have good mobile fullbacks in, of course, to Cobham Grads and Lewis Hall and Tino Livramento. But in terms of Fabian Schär and Dan Burn especially, I thought there was a lot to go out there. And even in their central midfield, I mean, I like Joe Linton. Sandro Tonali could turn out to be a brilliant player. And we know the talent of Bruno Guimaraes, even though he was diving a lot yesterday. Again, not tons of speed in central midfield, so there was definitely a way for Chelsea to exploit Newcastle time and again. And it was great to see early on Palmer already looking for that ball for Neto, who was looking to run in behind Newcastle's defence. And we saw it time and again, these two linking up on the left, Palmer and Neto. And eventually, let's just get to the pass. I mean, the pass is just absolutely insane. The more I watch it, the more I'm staggered by it, for a number of reasons. How quickly Palmer turns and executes a ball of that brilliance. The fact that he has at least, I guess, two players, Joe Linton especially, closing him down. The angles are not exactly obvious. I mean, I think most players would be able to find a pass just to the feet of Neto potentially. But the fact that he's so audacious and he goes beyond that, and already you can see a connection between Neto and Palmer in this game. The fact that Neto was already on his bike, he sees Palmer's going to play that pass and he's already making that run behind Livramento. The pass is just, I mean, we've had the pleasure at Chelsea of seeing some wonderful players, some wonderful midfielders. I mean, Frank Lampard at times would play in a Man City game where I think it was Drogba, wasn't it? 6-0, where he literally curled it with his right foot outside of his right foot round the Man City defence. Or Fabregas, of course, Fabregas and Diego's connection over the years. We've seen some great passes, but this is one of the best, just simply because how deep he is, how much pace he gets on the ball, how much direction and precision he gets on the ball, and the speed of Neto in transition was always something that excited me about his signing during the summer. And it's great to see in such an obvious and impactful way we've made that count against Newcastle. And Neto gets there first, lunging challenge, he gets there first, and then you just see on the right side of your screen here Jackson and Burn. I mean, no competition. Dan Burn knew it was game over, and great to see a counter-attacking goal. I mean, it's one of the things that I guess we've been frustrated by in recent years, as Chelsea at times know how to put themselves in good positions. That finish has sometimes let them down, and I think Jackson was guilty of that last season. I feel like this year there was a confidence when that ball went across the 6-yard box that Jackson was going to finish and he was going to be in the right place and he was going to execute the right finish, because that's the sort of player he is right now. He's gaining in confidence, it feels like, weekly. Really, really good goal. There were other moments in the first half where, again, Levi Colwill, who we spoke about several weeks ago, he's a real kind of hidden playmaker for Chelsea. The way with his left foot, he's able to carve balls through the lines of teams and especially get it into the feet of Palmer. I just love how Palmer, you could see the confidence flow. I mean, when is Palmer not confident? But the confidence flowing out of him after that first goal, where he's dragging these Newcastle defenders in towards the ball and he's just able with one touch to get past them. This time he's taken out and Newcastle get a yellow card. The second time through the legs, I mean, it's just insane. And then he plays a left-footed ball curled crossfield to Noni Madueke and it gets Chelsea further up the pitch. Again, just simply ridiculous. I mean, it really is. Again, it's just unplayable stuff, and it's one of those things that's great to see, because Palmer is just... He's like Hazard in the sense that tactics, methodology, approach, we talk about all these very complex things in football, but you watch a player like Palmer and because he plays it at such a different pace, it feels like all great players feel like he has more time than everyone else. It feels like he's quicker than everyone else. It feels like he sees things before anyone else, not only on the pitch, but in the stadium can see them. And I think it's great that Maresca has walked into Chelsea and has clearly seen that Palmer is just this is a guy that's going to win me games. And I don't need to be too complex about it. I don't need to be too smart about it. I'm just going to give him freedom. I've seen what's developed last year. Let's build around him. And I think with Caicedo and Lavia, we saw this for the second goal where Lavia winning the ball back in a key area, Isaac losing the ball, good pressure from Levi, and just catching Newcastle again, napping a little bit, and their lack of speed, their lack of maybe confidence in defence, especially against Parma. And again, just like the precision of that pass, the speed at which that ball is hit from Parma inside the box to score the second goal is incredible. I know probably in our modern game and analysis, there'll be a lot of people looking at the goalkeeper because he's close to it, it's his near post and it kind of gets past him. The speed of that shot's ridiculous. It's a bit like the shot that Parma hit past Verbruggen in the Brighton game, the fourth goal in that first half. It's like, I have sympathy for goalkeepers because by the time he hits that shot, by the time that ball is even close to Nick Pope, it's very hard. It would have been an incredible save, really, if he was able to keep that or get something to it. Substantial, that is. And, of course, Chelsea 2-1. So I think, Palmer, obviously, he's playing this number 10 role. I really like that base between Lavia and Caicedo behind them because I think on the ball, they've both got talent. I think they've both got good passing, a little bit of creativity. But I think mainly they can form a great kind of shield around Palmer where they can maybe lure opponents in. They can create a good base. You can kind of be confident they're going to protect the ball. They've got enough speed. They've got enough defensive awareness. And that was something we concerned about earlier in the season and that kind of balance issue that Maresca has stressed. I do start to wonder if he feels a lot more confident. There are some big tests to come. Obviously, you can say we failed the Liverpool one because we didn't win that game. We lost that game. Although I do still think that Caicedo had a brilliant game. I think Lavia showed a lot. And Lavia, if you remember, was taken off quite early in the second half of that game. Now we've got Lavia back and hopefully getting his match fitness. He'll play a lot more this season. Because I still think that, Enzo came on. He didn't have a disastrous performance, but I think for me it's quite clear who the Premier League midfield is now. And for me it has to be Caicedo and Lavia for as much as we can get them out there. And I think they create such a stable base. And I think there's more to come from that pairing. And I think they just give more freedom and license to Parma. And also, another thing that I think Maresca has done really well is he understands the speed he's got in Chelsea's attack. They can hit teams on the break. It's funny because Newcastle, I think a fear before this game was Newcastle can be a very defensively solid team. Maybe in attack, they haven't been as fluid as they have been before. I mean, Alexander Isak scoring a goal. I was a little bit frustrated how passive it felt Chelsea were in that defensive moment. And again, Chelsea defensively have had some lapses in concentration this year that still need to be ironed out. But one of the things I loved in the second half and just around this game was it kind of felt like an old school Chelsea win. Chelsea just finding a way to win, how aggressive the game was, how it was physical. You had some dodgy refereeing decisions. It was hard for Chelsea to try and find that third goal, but they got through the game. And it's a game that it's a style of game. I know we beat Newcastle at home last year, but it's a style of game I just wouldn't have backed Chelsea to win last season. I don't think they would have won it previous years as well, because it's that kind of game that has got Chelsea unstuck, especially at Stamford Bridge. And I think the difference now is you do have a genius like Cole Palmer, who is just not only a goal machine, an assist machine, someone who just unlocks a variety of defences and opens up so much for you. But I also do think this team under Maresca is already showing that chameleon side that I love from Chelsea of being able to fight teams, being able to understand and appreciate what type of game it is, and then very much adapt to that and try and beat it that way. The only other two players, I mean, we've already talked about Jackson. I think he's had a brilliant start to the year. Of course, we have to talk about Reece James, left back. I believe Reece has played there maybe at wing back for Tuchel. He hasn't played much on the left side. And listen, I back Reece James to play in most positions because he is an extraordinary talent. But of course, the big conversation is about his fitness. But he played over 100 minutes because we had about 7 minutes added time in the first half and then had quite a few in the second half as well. And given this was a guy who he did nearly, there was a bit of heart in mouth moment late on, of course, when he headed that ball over from a Newcastle set piece. But you saw how much the team leaned on him. And I think obviously Maresca going public about him showing more leadership. Just on that, I know it can be quite conflicting for people. I quite like it from Maresca. I think Maresca has earned the ability to do that because I think he's made some really strong decisions, personnel decisions that has earned my respect of, dropping players when they're not playing well, no matter what their price tag is. And also you got to factor in, Reece hasn't been an incredible captain. I'm not just saying this in terms of his injury record. That's, a side point. You got to remember Reece James, has come on the pitch at times and has cost his team dearly. You know, he got himself a red card in the Brighton game that nearly cost Chelsea. He got himself a second yellow stupidly against Newcastle last year. And I think it's just almost like it's that character building, and I think understanding what different characters need. It's one of these things that you hear people in football and coaches talk about and managers talk about. You know, it's a classic Sir Alex Ferguson thing. It's probably, you know, something that Jose's talked about in the past as well. Different characters require different things. You know, not everyone requires kind of a soft touch or kind of a quiet word in private. Some coaches feel that player needs kind of a kick in the backside or maybe a bit of a shot in the arm in public. And, you know, Reece James needs this season to work for him for obvious reasons. You know, he needs to find himself a consistent run. He needs to become a regular, reliable player for Chelsea. And I felt like this was such a tough physical game. He came through it wonderfully and, of course, played a big role in Chelsea defensively getting through it in the end, that I think that Maresca will look at it and go, that worked for me. And hopefully Reece will build on that now. So, big 3 points, Chelsea. I think just nudged out the top four because of Arsenal's point. But you look at that Premier League table, and given what we were all fearing in the summer, and given what we've seen in recent weeks, I think it was important that Chelsea bounced back from the defeat at Liverpool. Obviously, now we have Newcastle again in midweek. I expect that's going to be a radically different team. It's probably going to be the B team. And I didn't speak on the show about the Panathinaikos game, and I'm quite confident about that because Joao Felix, I think, had a really good game. Mudrik's been showing his quality. And I think that B team hopefully will use it again, as they have in the Conference League, as an opportunity to impress and maybe push to get in that Man United starting 11. Because that Man United game, we haven't won at Old Trafford in so long. And I think it would be another big step for Enzo Maresca personally. Of course, we've got one more game before that Man United one, and we'll look at that later in the week. But that is the show today. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. If you are listening only on the podcast, head over to the Son of Chelsea YouTube channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. It's free to do so. And make sure you see the new studio. Let me know your thoughts on the new studio. Going to be doing lots of good content and hopefully some exciting announcements. Going to have guests coming on the show in the upcoming weeks as we celebrate, I guess, the new era, the new Son of Chelsea studio. So let me know your thoughts on all of that. Follow me across the socials at Son of Chelsea. Have a great rest of your day wherever you are, and I will see you again very soon. All the best.